Generation Z is truly unlike any other generation before them. So if you're struggling to connect with these young adults on your team, you are far from alone. I've struggled to motivate Generation Z myself, but what I've discovered is that it is on us as leaders to understand them, relate to them, and inspire them to work harder and help our businesses succeed. On this episode of Bootstrappers, we're going to learn how to motivate the Generation Z members of our teams so that we can get the results we want as business leaders. Welcome to Bootstrappers. I'm your host, Gwen Aspen, with my spouse, Jeremy Aspen. I just know you're going to do something
stupid
weird right there. And today we're talking about how to motivate Gen Z, which honestly I think is like the hottest topic at every convention I've been to in the last 18 months. So let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Gen Z, our job as managers is to manage the people who are there, and Gen Z is the new people in the workforce. So anyone who's 26 and younger.
Okay. All right.
But I do.
And so to make this evergreen, people born between 1997 and in the 2000s.
Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah. And Gen Z and millennials, I think that those are kind of like, okay, 26, but I would say it's up to 30. Some have this kind of mindset. But anyway, so here's I'm going to tell you my personal failures with Gen Z. So I've hired like a lot of Gen Z people last year, and it ended in a dumpster fire going down a river. And then at the very
running
end,
into a gas
there was
tank.
like a dirty bomb at the end of it. It was really bad, you guys. It was so bad. And I thought that they would be amazing because they were college athletes and we pay really well. And we're like, oh, there's no, and this is all U.S. employees, by the way. You all want flexibility. I'll give you the world and flexibility. And I gave them all the things that I thought they wanted. And
all the things that you wanted when you were their age.
Well, no, I read about this. Like, I was told everybody wants flexibility. So, okay, be flexible, whatever. But I was very clear about what the rules were, what the job was, ended in that dumpster fire, dirty bomb at that. Okay. So at any rate, this has been like a personal thing for me because I was complaining about it and I sounded like an old lady and like my parents, complaining about us kids. And I didn't like that about myself. I thought, okay, we have to figure out how to motivate these people. They're young. It's on me as a manager, right? And so I've done a little bit of a deep dive on what Gen Z wants. And so I thought if other people are struggling like I am, maybe we can talk about it.
Yeah, to the extent that, to the extent it's not everybody. You have to take every person and treat them the way that they operate best. But if we're generalizing, and we are to a huge degree, there are some things that you can do to well, you'll see.
So, for instance, I was talking to a Gen Zer. I just went to Africa, which is crazy. But for Entrepreneurs Organization, I'm on the board, and so they wanted to train me in Africa, and I'm like, okay. So someone on the trip brought their +1 was their child who just graduated. Well, no, I guess he's like 2 years into college. And I asked him, what does your generation want in work? And he said money, and I was like, who wants money? Like we were always taught, like no one takes a job for money. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And I still think there's something to that. But when I did the deep dive in the research, guess what?
They want money.
Gen Z wants money.
That makes it a lot easier, actually.
And you know what it is? They have so much debt. Because college is literally so much more expensive that they really do need the money.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
So they want money, and it's confusing because we think of millennials and Gen Z kind of the same thing, but they're not. So I guess millennials were the ones who wanted work to be fun.
The ping pong.
Yeah.
Or the WeWork generation, right?
The WeWork generation, the people who wanted ping pong and like a keg at work, that kind of stuff. And they wanted to work hard, play hard.
A beer bong at noon. those people. I
always wondered, the managers who allowed that, like, how do you get anything done? Like, I don't have time to play ping pong in the middle of the day.
Yeah, I
never got that.
That was that creativity thing. Like, you need to give your brain a break. But
So the Gen Z, apparently, they're more insecure about money because they grew up during the Great Recession and
big debt.
They haven't had a very easy go. Think about it. So apparently they kind of have unrealistic expectations about how much money they can make. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're struggling with them, you guys, is because since they have so much debt, they think that they're worth a lot more than they are. And so it's our jobs as managers to kind of set the expectations with reality. So on average, students who graduate with four-year degrees or graduate degrees will earn about 23% less than they expect to right after college.
23% less than they expect. Okay.
So
is that because colleges are giving them high expectations?
Maybe.
They're paying all that money. They're like, no, this $400,000 of debt. I mean, you're definitely going to make way more money. Underwater BB stacking.
Maybe. That's actually a super good point.
Right.
So we have to really do a sales job on Gen Z on money. But apparently, once we get the salary expectations in line, they understand that they're going to have to work. So apparently, they're really hard workers.
Oh.
I don't know. That's what the research shows.
Provided they're motivated correctly.
Yeah. So we're supposed to encourage work-life balance and innovation and lead by example. Okay, so these people have grown up in a world where every person of authority has let them down.
Like, how's that?
Like governments, like health they just feel like anyone in a position of authority is probably lying to them.
Oh. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because they're also the generation that was victims of helicopter parenting. They didn't have the freedom to go about and do things. They were stuck to their computers and, playing video games and learning, having sex without people. It's a totally different world.
I don't want to think about Gen Z as employees. Okay, you can go down that road yourself. But the thing is, they can smell inauthenticity, and they also really want to work for a company with values. So I was actually talking to another business owner about this. I'm like, Gen Z, are you struggling? And he said he wasn't struggling, and he said he has changed his whole recruiting process, where they talk about the values in the job description, in the interview, and he harps on the business values every day and twice on Sunday. And he says that it's made all the difference with his Gen Z workforce.
Which falls in line with our mission too, kind of. Directly. Like, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make employees' lives in our case, Latin America, better, operating in the constraints of a free market, obviously. So we can't just you can't just give money away and all that stuff. But you can establish an objective of helping give back. Flexibility, kind of, helping them live their best life.
Okay, so I want to talk about the flexibility for a second. So yeah, who doesn't want flexibility? And I'm going to be a naysayer on this a little bit, because my experience with Gen Z was, yes, they would be like, I want flexibility, but then they couldn't get their things done or focus because of the too much flexibility that we offered. So I think, yes, flexibility, you need to go to the bank for something important, you need to go to the dentist, flexible, your kid has a thing, flexible, fine. But like this work, anytime in the last 24 hours, do you remember when you were younger, you had time, and if someone gave you 24 hours in a day, you went to the
23rd hour and were like, shit.
And you didn't get anything done. So I think flexibility within parameters is actually best. And I think we're kind of overdoing the flexibility. This is just in my own personal opinion. Because we started having people be like, I need to go get my tattoo during work hours. And we're like, I'm sorry. Yeah, we're flexible. We didn't mean that flexible.
We're not like gymnast.
Yeah.
We're not that flexible.
So I'm just saying they'll take it too far if you give them too much flexibility. And then the other thing is, like, with these values, you're going to sound like a broken record. You're going to be like, I'm the most boring manager ever. I just keep talking about these values, but apparently it works. So I'm saying go with it.
I'd say go with it.
And then the other thing that has been helpful with Gen Z for me as I've become smarter is really digging into their personal goals and mission. So I think I've talked about this on the show, but just asking them, like, what do you want in life, and trying to align the company's goals with their personal goals. But according to the research, Gen Z is more realistic than prior generations.
That's
so
great news.
You should be able to level with them. But what they want is someone to listen and get to know them. So this is what you were talking about before. Like, people want to be known at work as like individuals.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, we spend a third of our lives there, which is almost cliche, but the people that you're with more often than your family, and just giving yourself an opportunity to get to know them. There's knock-on effects too, which is, you don't mind being with them. You don't mind having conversations. You can have more open conversations, which turns into all sorts of efficiencies also.
And I would just say, especially with remote team members, when you don't see them out in the world, write down their spouse's name, write down their kid's name, their dog's name, any kind of personal information so you can refer back to it. It really helps make them feel heard. And then the other thing that we see in Gen Z a lot that has been so amazingly helpful in getting great results is showing them a path forward for their career. Has that not been so helpful? Like, hey, if you do well here, in 2 years, you're going to go there. So they really want to see personal development is like super important to this generation.
Especially in like a call center. There aren't a lot of people that graduate from college and say, I want to be a call center agent my whole life. What they want to do is be able to identify that they don't need to leave the company in order to become a supervisor somewhere else, or leave the company and become a manager somewhere else. Letting them see that there are
pathways,
that there's pathways, that one, demonstrating clearly that the company is growing, and so that they can have those kinds of realistic expectations, kind of grounds them, puts them on terra firma, firm ground, with where they can go. Are we
going to Latin class now, Jerry?
Terra firma. No, that's not terra firma. That was Star Trek or some shit.
Where are you going with this? And we did this at Wistar Group with our maintenance team. We had that program, program where the young kids worked with Wilfred. What do you call it?
Oh,
I can't remember the name. The apprenticeship program. Yeah. And so we showed them a pathway through the apprenticeship program, and oh my gosh, transformative for our maintenance team. So if you can show these people like a pathway forward where they're going to keep learning and growing as a person, and that you care about that will work. And I think just clarity of the expectations. After being lied to their whole life by authorities, if you're just like, look, man, here are the rules. We got to live by them. Like, it's capitalism. Sorry, I didn't make it up. Like, but we're working within the parameters of a system, and you got to perform. And just the clarity and the honesty, they really appreciate it.
And especially if you're working with employees in an emerging market, they don't inherently they don't trust the bosses. So there's also an extra layer of distrust. I mean, that's always been the case. And then with that as the baseline, even for Gen Zers, it's hard. You have to work extra hard to make sure that they understand, especially here in the United States. I think we do a good job of this, of caring about them. Like, you're in it for them as much as they're in it for you. Like, your company won't succeed unless you have successful employees. And that is... In Mexico, we did an episode on this on Aplicándose en la Vida, and it's just, it's an extra hurdle, but it's a really important one. You need to understand that about them, because they are not going to give up that belief, because it's kind of culturally infused. So you got to work hard to get past that.
And another way to generate that trust that you care about them is transparency. I remember... Like, we had a town hall with our Mexico team, and I gave them some numbers about the business that I guess blew everyone's mind, because you're never supposed to share that. But I think the transparency, like, here's where we stand, this is where we're going, these are our goals, hopefully we'll get there, here's the stretch goal, creates that kind of trust where they felt like they were on the inner circle, and also...
Oh, they are
in the inner circle, and also... I want them to care about numbers in a managerial way, because the goal is, even though that their virtual assistants are as capable as anyone else, I want you to become tomorrow's managers. Like, there's no restriction. I'm sitting behind a computer all day. You're sitting behind a computer all day. If you can think like a manager, if you can be strategic, you know, you could do anything at this business.
Yeah, which I'm just going to make a plug for getting rid of that, the phrase virtual assistant. They are neither virtual.
They're real people.
They're real people, and nor are they, in most cases, even assistants. Like, in this day and age, a virtual assistant was back in the day when you had someone, you know, that was your assistant virtually. But nowadays, there's lawyers, there's accountants, bookkeepers, maintenance technicians. The only difference is that they're sitting somewhere else. They're remote. And they are professionals. So get rid of the use of the phrase virtual assistant.
We only use it for SEO.
Yeah, we use it for SEO because everybody says that. It's so dumb. It's disrespectful. Not that you have to for SEO purposes, but if you really take a second to think about it, it is kind of it has a demeaning kind of flavor. And I think while it's only semantic, it does last. It permeates the.
Well, I think the problem is that people really think of them as assistants instead of like a professional teammate that could collaborate with you and be strategic with you, and that you can depend on for high level decision making. And when you get that, when you are able to engender that higher level managerial thinking in your team, you're going to be amazed at what these people in Mexico can do for your business. And they're not going to be assistants. They're going to be managers. They're going to be directors. They have the capability of anyone else to really reach the highest levels of your business if that's what you manage and promote and encourage and mentor them to do. So, what are your takeaways for managing and inspiring Gen Z to be as motivated as possible?
Well, I mean, one of the ones I got to work on is the motivation, because I do think in our compensation packages we lean a little heavy on the flexibility, but having financial goals, I mean, that makes all the sense. I'm just glad to hear that Gen Z is more inclined to do that. As we move into a time where there's more and more Gen Zs that are coming to the workforce, that's going to be more important. Millennials, I think the strategy's been worked out great, but now we just have to be ready for next generation. Yeah,
and what I liked about the research, honestly, it gave me a lot of hope about Gen Z, because people have been really negative. And I wonder if the negativity is just because, like, everyone was depressed after the pandemic, and maybe productivity just lagged because of the situation globally we were in for 3 freaking years. And those were like the first 3 years that Gen Z was in the workforce. So we labeled them, but really it was just a darn pandemic that caused the problem. Because according to the research, super hard workers, they want to be innovative, they want to use technology, they want to help the business. They're going to be people that you can level with and give them a reality check, and they're not going to freak out. They could be amazing workforce, and we just are giving them a hard time that they don't deserve. And honestly, that's what I've seen from my friends' kids who are in the workforce. I mean,
oh, that's true.
All my friends' kids are hard workers. Like, they care. They're doing all the things that you need to do to be successful. They're not as bad as we were. So, like, they're more responsible, because we don't even want to talk about the things that you and I did when we were younger.
No. I mean, I do.
We're not talking about it. We're not talking about it. And so, let's maybe the call to action is managers. We have to give these people a break, be very clear on the expectations, get to know them as human beings, create compensation packages where they can win and get out of debt, and show them a path forward and use technology successfully. If we can do those things, I think we can get a lot out of the generation. And they are the new workforce. So we've got to figure out how to motivate them instead of blaming them for lack of productivity. We've got to look at ourselves as managers and be like, okay, strategically, how do we make this work?
Yeah, step up or retire. You're going to have to get used to it.
Okay. Well, that's a wrap. We'll see you next time on Bootstrappers. If you're struggling to get those big projects done, or you're just tired of all the stress that comes with executing new projects for your company, your step-by-step guide to planning and executing leadership projects is waiting for you in the show notes. This free PDF playbook will set your leadership projects up for success. Download the free PDF now. The link is in the show notes.